Governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee, who joins us now. Governor, great to see you this morning. You've heard all of the reports that we've been talking about. What's your reaction?
Well, it's pretty troubling to see that these are children that are being exploited. There are two kinds of people that come to the United States to immigrate. There are those who come because they desperately want the American dream. They want to live here. They want freedom. They want opportunity. And those are the people that have made America a wonderful country. And thank God that they have come from all over the world to make us a better country. And then there are those who want to exploit the American dream. They want to hurt people. They want to traffic children. They want to abuse them. They want to sell drugs, and we have every right and reason to keep those people out. But you can't keep anybody out, and you can't process the right ones if you don't control the border. And the insanity of the Biden administration's border policy is a chicken that has come home to roost, and it's time to pluck the chicken and make sure that we have control of the borders and control of the people who truly deserve to come here and that we want to come here.
Governor, Rachel's talked about this, and rightfully so. Talk to me as a governor, a former governor. States are receiving these people across the country, families, kids. How do you absorb into a community that's already, overworked, overtaxed, schools at capacity? How do you absorb this type of illegal activity?
The taxpayers spend a whole bunch of money that they wouldn't be spending. Here's what happens. When people come illegally and they come into a situation, they typically are coming in impoverished. These aren't people who are flying in a private jet, picking up a limo and driving to a home they just bought, which means that you're going to put them in your Medicaid program, pay all their health care expenses. You're going to put them into your schools, pay all the educational expenses. That's several $1,000s a year per child. And it means you're also going to subsidize food, you're going to subsidize housing, and when all this happens, who's paying for that? The taxpayers in those states. So I can tell you that every governor in America, any of them that have their brains still functioning, there's a few that apparently don't, but the rest of them, this isn't about not loving people. It's not about being compassionate. It's about not wanting to put an unfair burden on their already burdened taxpayers and pushing things into their budget that they simply can't afford. And here's the other rub. The federal government isn't paying for all those expenses. They're leaving it to the states to suck it up and pay for it. And that's where the rub comes. And so it's a huge problem, not to mention that those who come who are being sexually exploited and trafficked, that's a human tragedy. And that tragedy just keeps on going and going. And then when people bring drugs and they kill innocent American teenagers, who pays for the funeral? Let me tell you, we all do.
Yeah, we all do. You know, Governor, by the way, it's happening at precisely the time that so many people are struggling to put gas in their tank and food on the table. Just as, this is happening, we're seeing the strain on the resources. This whole weekend, Governor, we've had this thing. We've decided we're not just going to report the news. We kept asking why. Why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why did the newspapers suddenly decide, the New York Times decide that they were going to talk about the Hunter Biden story? Let's talk about the why with this policy, because I interviewed two women who were running for Congress, two Hispanic women running for Congress on the border. They said, we're getting all these Hispanic voters, American voters. They don't like this. They're turning to Republican candidates because they're not happy about this. If this is so electorally bad for the Democrats, why do they keep doing it?
Well, I could just say because they've lost their minds, because I think they have. That's the obvious reason. But I think they truly believe that they're going to import people who will vote for them for the rest of their lives. And they're missing something. The people who will come here, who will be responsible citizens, are coming to be responsible citizens. They want to come and they'll pay taxes. They'll absorb into the communities. They will open businesses. They will help bring prosperity to the country. And those people, when they look around and say, wait a minute, I'm working really hard. Do I really want all of the things that I'm working for to subsidize the people who get up at the crack of noon and maybe don't turn a thing until they go to their mailbox and pick up their government check? Those folks are going to be Republican, not Democrat.
Governor, we wanted to take some time while we have you on the program to talk about a story that's been talked about all week long, but there's a new angle to it, and it's, of course, the Will Smith-Chris Rock incident. And the new angle is Denzel Washington. He said something earlier that I think we all liked. He said something about this moment and what it means and maybe the deeper answers. He was at a T.D. Jakes Leadership Summit. He said the following: I don't want to say what we talked about, meaning he and Will Smith, but therefore the grace of God go any of us. Who are we to condemn? I don't know all of the ins and outs of the situation, but I know the only solution was prayer. There's a saying, when the devil ignores you, then you know you're doing something wrong. The devil goes, oh, no, leave him alone. He's my favorite. Conversely, when the devil comes at you, maybe it's because he's trying to do something right. And for whatever reason, the devil got a hold of him that night. What we talked about, we'd love to get your perspective on this, is, you know, not to excuse what Will Smith did. I don't think anybody's interested in that or justify it, but rather look forward. Denzel Washington talked about the only real salvation is prayer.
I think one of the things that come out of this is that it's refreshing to hear a Hollywood star like Denzel Washington talk about spiritual things. I love that. I appreciate that. On this day that most of us will be going to church here in a little while, how wonderful it is that somebody from Hollywood actually has the courage to say, I believe in Jesus. I believe in forgiveness. I believe in grace and prayer, the things that really are the foundation of America's greatness and liberty. But the thing that I hope people will understand, what Will Smith did was reprehensible. We all understand that. But Will Smith is obviously a hurting person. My pastor has said many years, hurt people hurt people. In other words, someone who is hurting will end up hurting other people. Somewhere Will Smith is hurting. We can hold him accountable for what he did, and we should. But what Denzel Washington was showing was that even the most reprehensible person in our midst, somebody needs to be his friend. Somebody needs to show him love, forgiveness, grace, and kindness. That's why in America we provide the worst criminals among us with defense attorneys to defend them and guarantee them the civil rights of a trial. It makes no sense to some people around the world, but it makes perfect sense to Americans whose basic system is built on a religious foundation that every individual matters, every person does in fact count. We hold people accountable for their crimes, but we don't hate them, and we also do not ignore their humanity. We treat them with respect and dignity, whether they deserve it or not. That's exactly what Denzel Washington was showing. I think it is just something to celebrate. Again, hold Will Smith accountable for his sins. But I've always found that when someone is in trouble, that's when they really need a friend. And we can act more like Christians then than any other time in our lives.
Quite
Exactly
a pre-sermon appetizer. We are all sinners saved only by grace, and moments like this remind us of that. We could all be in the same situation.
The reminder: he's a governor, you know, former governor, but he was a pastor first.
We can tell.
Well, pastor/governor, those are the exact words we were hoping to hear this morning. Thank you, for being on Fox and Friends.
Thank you.